Greetings, everyone. In today's presentation, we will talk about some of the fundamentals, some of the basics of design. What is design? Now, there are several definitions of the word design. It's a fairly commonly used word in the English language. But let's talk about a few definitions that I think are expansive enough and interesting enough to discuss in this presentation today. Here's one definition: everyone designs who devises courses of action aimed at changing existing situations into preferred ones. This is a definition from an economist by the name of Herbert A. Simon, a Nobel Prize winning economist. If you think about this definition, it's an extremely broad definition of what design does. Existing situations into preferred situations. There also is an ethical component to this definition. When we design something, it's important that we change what exists now into a preferred or a better condition than it was before. This is one definition of design I think that is broad and useful for us to learn about. Here's another definition. This is from Richard Buchanan, who is a philosopher. He describes design as conception and planning of the artificial. Now, what does he mean by artificial? Well, if you think of this world and divide it into two parts, the natural world and the artificial world, the natural world would refer to things like rivers and mountains and the streams, all the natural landscapes that we live with. That's the natural world. The artificial world is our buildings and our products and our graphics, our highway systems, our trains, etc. That's the artificial world. What designers do is they conceive of, they conceptualize, and they plan the artificial world. So all these physical things, the material things that you see around you that are made by humans, made by people, the conception and planning of those is another form of explaining what design is. Conception and planning of the artificial. A third definition, this also gets extremely broad. This is a definition that was written by Max Bill. Max Bill was the rector of the Ulm School of Design, which is one of the most influential design schools in the world. He describes it as design participates in the making of a new culture from spoon to city. But there's a really interesting dimension of scale in Max Bill's definition. He says from spoon, so you can think of that as one of the smallest physical things that we can use, and we do use every day, to a city, which is an extremely wide, broad landscape. So everything from a spoon to a city is designed. What happens in that process of design? We're actually making a new culture. So in this sense, what Max Bill is talking about is design is not merely the making of physical objects, the physical infrastructure that we live with, but it actually is participation in making of a new culture. So we've learned three really interesting definitions. One, which talks about the fact that it's going from existing situations to preferred ones. Second, about making the artificial world. And third, creation of a new culture. Really broad definitions, but these definitions are interesting because they include everything from the smallest objects to the largest cities in which we live. So I think design has three primary goals in everything that it does. Right? So if you think of what design does, the three things that design does: number one, it creates beauty in the world through these artificial objects that we create, whether they're buildings or interior spaces or clothing or shoes or any city that it might be. Our job as designers is to create beauty in the world. We all love to be surrounded by beautiful things. So that's one primary goal of design. The second goal of design is utility. Things can be beautiful, things can be aesthetically pleasing, but they also have to perform a certain function. We need them to work for us. We need them to be usable. We need them to be utilitarian. So that is the second goal of design. The third goal of design is sustainability. These things, they have to be beautiful, they have to be utilitarian, but they also have to be sustainable. They have to have a positive social and environmental impact on the world in which we live. So I think these three are important goals of design. Let's talk about the first of these components of design: beauty. So when designers create objects, spaces, buildings, cities, etc., one of the most important things to think about is the concept of beauty. Things have to be beautiful. They have to be aesthetically pleasing for the people who use these products or these spaces or these buildings. And what beauty includes is things like form, color, texture, surface, materials, etc. So when designers create these things, they keep in mind all these elements, all these components of beauty. We learn about an example of a product which is called Tera, which is designed by a design consultancy called Lunar. And what this product does is it's an exercise or a fitness mat that anticipates your movements and it tells you how you can exercise. It's a beautifully designed product that people can use and create a more healthier lifestyle for themselves. The second component of design is utility. It's important for objects to be beautiful, but it's also important for them to have a function. They have to be usable, they have to be utilitarian, they have to be some things that have to be manufactured, they have to be safe, they have to be ergonomic. So all of these things are a part of what utility means. Let's take the example of something like a Swiss Army knife, right? These knives are purely utilitarian objects. You can have a screwdriver, you can have a little saw, you can have a knife. All these things are wonderfully folded into this small device that you can have in your pocket and use it for all these purposes. So utility is another really important aspect of design. And the third aspect is that of sustainability. Now, sustainability includes two very important components, the social component and the environmental component. But let's look at a definition of what sustainability is from John Elkington. John Elkington has introduced this concept that he refers to as the triple bottom line, or TBL. And what he says is the TBL consists of profit, people, and planet, the three Ps: financial, social, and environmental performance of the corporation over a period of time. And that's how he defines the triple bottom line. So, in other words, what we have to think about is we have to think of the economic viability of a concept or an idea or a corporation. We have to think of the social justice that is important, and we have to think of the environmental responsibility. These three components together make up the triple bottom line and make up what sustainability is all about. Let's take an example of an ecosystem. What you see in this image here is a lake ecosystem. An ecosystem essentially is a collection of a variety of organisms, the soil, the water, the air. These organisms depend upon each other, they rely upon each other, they are networked together in the environment in which they live. If you make one small change to one of the organisms in the environment, it changes the dynamics of the complete ecosystem. The same thing applies to products and things as well. Each of the products, each of the spaces, each of the buildings exist in an ecosystem. And you have to think of the social and environmental impacts of this ecosystem. So these three components of design, beauty, utility, and sustainability, are important for us to think about as designers. Now, for example, imagine you were to have a glass of wine, right? If you wanted to have a glass of wine, you have this device in front of you. This is designed to hold red wine. Right? It has a certain amount of beauty. It has to be manufactured, so it's utilitarian. You can pour wine in it. You can hold the glass. And it is sustainable in the sense that glass is completely recyclable. But there is a specific shape, a form, and a utility to this product if you're drinking red wine. Let's say, for example, you wanted to drink champagne, and suddenly a glass of champagne shows up. This glass is designed differently. It is slightly different shape. It's designed in such a way that it holds the bubbles, it holds the aroma, and again, you can hold it in a certain way that's comfortable. Also sustainable because it's made from glass. Let's say, for example, you did not want wine and you wanted beer. Well, it has a different kind of a glass. This holds a certain amount of liquid. It's also comfortable to hold. It is designed with its utility in mind. It's beautiful, it's sustainable, and it has utility as well. Let me clarify one thing here though. I said glass is sustainable because it is 100% recyclable, and that is true. Also, glass containers can be used over and over again as long as they don't break, and so they are much better than single use containers made of plastic, for example. However, we have to keep in mind that a lot of energy is used in making glass, and the raw materials like sand, soda ash, and limestone do have negative impacts on the environment. And the other problem is that though glass is recyclable, most people do not recycle it, and therefore it ends up in landfills anyway. So these are the kinds of things that you should think about when you think of what design means. We are surrounded by a range of very simple to very complex products, very small buildings to large cities. All these are design. And the fundamentals of design essentially are these things have to be beautiful, they have to be utilitarian, and they have to be sustainable. So that's the basics of design. I hope you enjoyed the lecture.